Welcome back, everybody, to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. Happy Halloween, because we are here to give you our Real Time weekly news for this past week. Now, happy Halloween again, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great time. I'm on a horror movie marathon. I don't know about you boys.
Well,
I'm
first of all,
watching.
I'm Ryan Murphy.
Well, yeah, of course you are. Everybody knows you.
I'm James Sheridan.
My bad, guys. I got a little on a tangent there. I apologize. But thank you guys so much for joining us here. And we got quite a bit of good news for you guys. We got some additions to what happened with the Doctor Who Disney Plus, and James will bring that up. And we also have some great stuff involving James Gunn if you haven't seen it yet. So let's just jump right into it. James, why don't you go ahead and start us off with the Doctor Who, because you guys reported on it last week that there's been a deal between Disney Plus and Doctor Who.
No, we didn't get to that part. Last week
Okay.
we talked about the finale.
That's right.
The changeover, the new Doctor Who. If you haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it for you. If you didn't watch last week's show, I'm not going to spoil it.
All over the news.
It's all over the news, but I still want to be respectful for the people who
Sure.
haven't caught up yet. But very big, important changing of the guard. Very exciting for the future. And on the heels of that, Disney Plus announced that they're going to be the exclusive international keepers of of Doctor Who for streaming purposes for the shows going forward. So starting with this new stuff that's coming forward, everything after her name always escapes me.
Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker.
Everything after Jodie Whittaker is going to be exclusive to Disney Plus outside of the UK. Within the UK, it's still going to be on BBC, the BBC player thing that they've got.
So and Ireland. It's UK and Ireland.
UK and Ireland. Sorry,
I don't know how people watched Doctor Who before that. Then
it's on BBC America.
On BBC America, or
I thought it was on HBO Plus.
No, it's on BBC America. You can watch it on HBO Plus, on HBO Max, but like new episodes, like new daily episodes, they're on BBC America.
Okay.
Because I remember just in college when I would watch the David Tennant show, I would just get the DVDs from the library.
Yeah.
So I've never known exactly how if I'd see reruns on PBS sometimes, but I didn't really know how. But from now on, it's going to be on Disney Plus. So it's just kind of crazy. It's just Disney further and further expanding that entertainment empire.
Well, the deal is interesting because what was initially reported was that it was just going to be Disney being a streaming service for it. It was just going to be the home for it. But some new information came out the day after that, that according to the Telegraph in the UK, Disney's actually going to be funding the show. And they're going to have, a lot of people were afraid that that Disney was going to have their hands in it. And most of the people who were reporting on were saying, no, it's just a streaming deal. Well, it came out the day after that Disney does have some sort of influence on this because they will be funding the creation of upcoming series and whatnot. I don't know how much money they've put into, or if any, into the specials that they've already shot that are coming out in the next, I think there's 3 episodes with this.
They have a Christmas special coming out soon. Yeah. They always do a Christmas special. Yep.
And those that story arc, I don't know if that's it apparently will be part of this deal that they will be streaming it, but I don't know if they funded that and it's only just being announced. But going forward, they will have some say in what's going on. Russell T Davies will maintain the overall creative vision for Doctor Who, but Disney will have some level of say in the creative decisions for the series.
So in a weird way, for some people maybe think about it, Disney, think about it in the realms of Marvel Studios and Disney. Like back then, now Bob Chapek, he's runs Disney over everything, even Marvel. But Marvel is headed by Kevin Feige. It's kind of the same with Russell T Davies. He will still head Doctor Who, but it's still Bob Chapek who's
it's a little different because the Marvel stuff, DC or Disney owns wholesale.
Yeah.
So they have full say over, they could kibosh the entire Marvel Studios at any point.
Yeah.
They don't have that same influence over BBC and Russell T Davies.
It's just
they do have some say. So they will be sort of sometimes the way it works in TV, you'll have a studio that primarily funds it and will be in control of it, but then you'll have an additional studio that's kind of involved, or additional network that's kind of involved. who will have some creative input, but their creative input will come after the primary sort of people
Mhm.
involved. So from what I'm understanding of this deal, like Disney's not taking over Doctor Who. They don't own Doctor Who. They
Gotcha.
just have the streaming
Okay.
rights, but because they're partly funding it, they are going to have a little bit of say in what is done.
Now,
But that,
I,
that
I
that does mean, like, a lot of people are going to complain about, okay, now they're going to Disneyfy Doctor Who. I don't think
What does
that's
that
what's going
even
to
mean?
happen. I think
Disneyfy
it's going to.
Doctor Who.
Sorry.
What would that even mean? Disneyfy Doctor Who? It's not.
When people say Disneyfy, they think of like the quality of Star Wars films up to this point, and like saying that's terrible, and like saying like the fourth phase of
Marvel.
MCU has been Disneyfied and all that stuff, and it's not.
It's
the same
also-
those
and
are
it's
all
also
run
some-
by different people though, like Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy, and
Yeah, but
No,
there's
it's
also kind of a brand too. I get what James saying. Now, to put it in a ways like when things are Disneyfied, I think of like they're more lighthearted. They're a lot more joking than the.
that's stupid.
Then,
Like
then
Prey,
they're
really was Prey
previous.
lighthearted?
Hang on. Then their previous tones, like the previous tones of what they were before. Like for
Again,
example, like Doctor Who is lighthearted when you think about it, but there's also a lot of great dark themed and dark toned episodes within
what
it.
I'm trying to say is I don't think they're actually going to change what's going on with Doctor Who.
Right.
What's going to happen is Doctor Who's just going to have a bigger budget. So
Yeah.
it's probably going to look a little more like, it's going to probably be more like the Matt Smith era in terms of like quality, where like prior to Matt Smith, it was sort of lower budget and it wasn't nearly as good. Then they suddenly got a groundswell of money with the Matt Smith era. And then after that, like it sort of petered off again. And during the Jodie Whittaker era, it was like, you could really kind of notice just how much the quality had dipped kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, because I really like her and I liked her take on the character as much as I had seen, but she just didn't have the support that, you know, previous doctors had. And it's like, it's disappointing. So
I would argue that
I think
it
this is
also-
actually going to be kind of a net benefit for the show. And I know a lot of people are kind of nervous because every time Disney gets their hands in things, you know, certain people seem to think that it ruins it, but I don't think that's what's going to happen here. I just think it's going to be a net benefit for Doctor Who.
Yeah, as a hardcore Doctor Who fan myself, I would argue that it actually started going downhill with Peter Capaldi after the first season. A lot of people were disappointed with the first season, and as things progressed, I mean, yeah, people liked him, but it wasn't nearly the caliber of David Tennant or Matt Smith as far as the quality of the stories, but also quality of the acting as of the Doctor. Now the Doctor is different. He has different personalities, different traits, different things, but it was just much different. It was very far from what we were getting from the first three of this new iteration of Doctor Who. But the one thing I wanted to ask, James, I skimmed through the news article you were talking about, but I didn't quite see, does it answer any questions of whether there's going to be distribution of Doctor Who episodes from the previous, like
From
all the
everything
seasons
I've
prior?
heard, and I've actually asked this question myself previously, is that it's only the new material.
Oh shit.
Okay.
I didn't know
Which
that.
is a bummer because I was really hoping that they would get the library of Doctor Who, because
Mhm.
it's really hard to find that stuff. I
Yeah,
know
right now it's
BBC
only on
Player
HBO
has it,
Max. Yeah.
which I don't get in Canada. I don't get the BBC Player one, and like I can use a VPN, but I try to use as legitimate versions as possible, and use like Canadian streamers as much as possible. So like the idea of Disney Plus having, you know, the whole back catalog, or even just like the new Who back catalog would be great, because I do want to go back and rewatch, you know, 9 through 15, whatever version this, however, whether you count the War Doctor as a number or not, or whatever, this would be the 15th incarnation technically.
Yeah.
I need to catch up on that, but I also want to watch some of the old stuff. Like I never really got to see much of Hartnell or.
Well, the reason for that is that a lot of the original stuff prior to.
I know it doesn't exist anymore. It was completely purged by BBC.
Yeah,
but there
it was
still
burned by
is some
BBC, yeah.
episodes that do exist.
Oh yeah, there are. And you can find those on HBO Max. I mean, yeah, of course you can't get to it, but people who can, there are older stuff from it, just not full seasons, because like you had said, James, and like what happened, there was an accident at BBC Studios, and it, like
It wasn't
a lot
an accident. It was intentional.
Oh, it was intentional? I've heard it was an accident.
No, what happened was in the 70s, it was common practice for TV stations, especially big ones, to purge and destroy their tapes, to erase their tapes, because tapes are magnetic and can be reused. To erase old tapes, old masters, and reuse those tapes to save money. And there wasn't the concept of syndication or selling these shows to anyone else. They might air in a repeat, but for the most part, once they've aired, it's kind of done. And in the 70s, they destroyed their entire back catalog because they wanted to make room for new stuff, especially in the 70s when like BBC didn't have as much money at that point.
Yeah.
And saving money on something like tapes that they would use so frequently would be a huge sort of benefit for them. But a lot of that stuff is lost. That said, there has been a lot of stuff that's sort of been like pieced together from different sources. And then I think there was somewhere in like South Africa or something where they found a storage place in like a cave somewhere where someone had like put a whole bunch of old stuff, and there was a whole bunch of old like 8mm film reels of like first and second Doctor era episodes that had been completely lost and we thought were gone forever. Some stuff like famously the first Doctor's regeneration was lost. We only had a few snapshots and then some audio from some recording that's like it was put into a different medium. I want to say it's an audiobook, but it's not an audiobook or something, but like they were able to piece together sort of what happened, but like most, like we have the video of it and we have like a disconnected sort of audio, but the entire episode and the arc relating to it is like it's in bits and pieces. And like I think there was like an effort to like animate it at one point to try and like put together that story so that people could watch the final story of the first Doctor. And of course, that story is so important to the canon of Doctor Who.
Yeah, I've only seen like
the concept
4 or 5
of
episodes.
regeneration.
Yeah, I've only seen like 3 or 4 episodes. So it's all I could ever find is like some of him. And
I think there's a good number of them still out there, especially like the early ones. But some of the middle ones would get lost, and some of the second Doctor and a bit of the third Doctor, I think, were lost. I think from the fourth Doctor on, we have pretty much most of it, but it's an unfortunate side effect of just like, you know, corporate policy and, you know, not being careful with archiving things properly. And, you know, there just wasn't a market to sell these things at that time. So why would they keep it? But anyway, we're getting off on a tangent. I'm excited for this because we will have, you know, an international availability of new episodes for everybody equally across the board. Doctor Who's kind of struggled to get into a lot of markets over the years, especially in America. It's not really done well. Canada, it was a bit more popular. And like with the new Who stuff, it's sort of like increased over time. How popular it was, but it's still like internationally, it's not nearly as big as it could be, especially like outside of the UK, Europe and whatnot. But this presents an opportunity for more people to be able to see it legally through, you know, a normal streaming means. And I'm always in favor of there being more opportunity to see media as it is, rather than having to like find it through illegitimate means kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I'm very excited for this too. I mean, the more people can see this, the better. I love this. I've loved this show ever since Christopher Eccleston was the 9th Doctor, and David Tennant, of course, my favorite Doctor. And surprisingly, there's a pretty good following here in the U.S. Not surprising, but there's a really good following here in the U.S. I mean, I've seen ever since even my Doctor Who themed wedding, I've heard of 5 or 6 even at the venue that I photography at. They have Doctor Who.
Oh, there's definitely a devoted fan base, but it doesn't have the sort of same general appeal outside of the UK that it does in the UK. Like in the UK, it is like it's your family Sunday show. The family sits around to watch the show every week, kind of thing, and it's been like a tradition for generations, kind of thing. It's as popular as like Coronation Street or any other British show you can think of. Like it's just that much of the like in the public eye kind of thing. Whereas other places it's very much niche.
I'm definitely going to introduce it to my daughter when she gets old enough, but especially now, hopefully be on Disney Plus, but we'll have to find the previous stuff. But that's really exciting news. More importantly, folks, what do you think of this news? Jump in the comments and let us know your thoughts. Now let's go ahead and move on here to the second bit of news we have here. Ryan, do you want to take it away and
The
involve
official
DC?
formation of DC Studios, under the headship under the lead of James Gunn and Peter Safran. So it's actually, this is kind of funny because I just literally made a message board thread about trying to get some stuff straight. It's called the troubled behind the scenes history of the DCEU, and how they've never, like, first thing I pointed out was, Marvel has Marvel Studios. DC's never had something called DC Studios. They've always had, they've had people in charge. So when they first decided they were going to make a DC, they didn't even come up with the word DCEU. It was some guy in a newspaper article or whatever, in a magazine article, and they've never really liked the name, and they just announced they're going to call it the DCU, which makes no sense because that does not differentiate it from the regular DC Comics universe. So they're still not figuring that. Just call it the DCCU. But when they first decided they were going to do this, they just
why not the DCFU? The DC Film Universe.
Exactly. So the nothing really sounds good. DCEU sounds as good as anything. But when they first started out, they put these three guys in charge: Charles Roven, Zack Snyder, and Deborah Snyder. Obviously, Zack and Deborah Snyder need no introduction. Charles Roven's a big, successful film producer, has been for a long time, and he produced actually the Dark Knight trilogy with Christopher Nolan. If you'll remember, Man of Steel was the birth of Man of Steel came about from Christopher Nolan. I think Christopher Nolan is actually responsible for hiring Zack Snyder on that film. So, you're welcome. Thank you, Christopher Nolan. But so Charles Roven was chosen to produce that film, and then became sort of what they called the Brain Trust. And it was Zack and Deborah Snyder and Charles Roven, but it was never, they were never as involved as Kevin Feige. Sometimes they got executive producer credit instead of producer credit, which is like less involved. It's like, and there was
sometimes it's just a title. It's just an empty title, just an honorific given to someone important. And
and the films have never been as interconnected. They've never had phases like Marvel has phases where they just coalesce into this magnificent, the way the Infinity Saga came together was just so beautiful. It's once in a lifetime kind of thing. But Zack and Deborah Snyder and Charles Roven were the heads, and they were the heads on Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, and they were producing as well Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and Justice League, and Aquaman. All of those were in the pipeline when Batman versus Superman came out, kind of bombed, and DC canned them. And Charles Roven came out and said, well, I'm still producing the sequels to the films that I've done. So he remained a producer on Wonder Woman 1984 and the Suicide Squad. But they brought in Jeff Johns and John Berg, who famously, to sort of replace them, who famously hired Joss Whedon to overhaul the Justice League movie. And those are two of the names that, Ray Fisher, has, lambasted, dragged through the mud, like, being Ray Fisher. I lose track of all the names of the people he hates, but two among them were,
if you
Jeff
read
Johns
the shit that they said to him, I understand why he's angry.
Well, at any rate, Jeff Johns, John Berg, so Justice League came out in 2007, and then that bombed, didn't do any better. So they fired Jeff Johns and John Berg, and they hired a guy named Walter Hamada, who's now the third person in this position. And then Walter Hamada got lots of hate from Ray Fisher. Again, I lose track of all the people that he hates. Walter Hamada has been just executive producer, not producer, but just executive producer on all the films since then. So Aquaman was this really interesting thing where all those guys had their names in the executive producer list. It was like executive producers: Zack Snyder, Deborah Snyder, Jeff Johns, John Berg, Walter Hamada, because they were all involved in it at one point or another. So Walter Hamada has been heading DC sort of. There is no DC films. There's no, I don't think there's an actual office space or a building or something, but he's been in charge of producing DC related content for the film studio. But they've been trying to follow the Kevin Feige model. They've been trying to do what Marvel, they've been trying to ape Marvel for a long time now. And earlier this year, there was news that Dan Lin, who's a successful film producer, was going to be hired as, quote, DC's Kevin Feige. And then the deal fell through. Walter Hamada left or was fired, whatever. Ray Fisher was like, aha, I won with one more guy. And then they announced that they've now announced that they are officially forming. It's called DC Studios. It's not just the films; it's actually in charge of the TV as well, which should be interesting because they have several TV shows on that are in different universes. There's obviously Arrowverse, but that's very, very much dwindling down. I mean, most of the shows have gotten canned at this point. So the Arrowverse is in its final days, but Titans is still on, and that's in its own universe. And I think Doom Patrol is still on, and that's in its own universe. So now, hopefully, maybe they'll kind of everything done in the future will be kind of in the same universe. I don't know the way Marvel is doing, but to sort of summarize who these guys are, I think James Gunn needs no introduction. Peter Safran, people might not know who he is. He's a film producer, and actually he produced some stuff with James Wan. So when he was announced as the producer on Aquaman, I was like, okay, he's just producing it because James Wan's directing it. But then he became the director or the producer on Shazam as well. But that was also directed by David F. Sandberg, who has connections with James Wan because he directed some movies some horror movies produced by James Wan. So there's a thread between all those guys. But then he also produced The Suicide Squad with Charles Roven, directed by James Gunn. And then I just found out recently that just tonight when I was doing my research that he had actually produced stuff for James Gunn before, like the Belko Experiment and PG Porn.
He also did Peacemaker as well. He produced that as well.
So he kept getting hired. So this is not like groundbreaking news that he's going to be the head of the whole studio, because he's been producing stuff for them for a while. But I'm very confused as to how he keeps getting these. Hold on a second. Okay. I'm very confused as to how he keeps getting these jobs. Like, was he brought on to Aquaman by James Wan, and then did he bring David Sandberg from that same sort of triangle of relationships? Did he bring David Sandberg in, or did David Sandberg just coincidentally bring him in again? And was he coincidentally brought in again on Suicide Squad because of his history with James Gunn, or did he have something to do with bringing James Gunn on board? All these guys are connected before this, so I don't know how.
This is all, of course, speculation, but based on the order of events, like, because he was basically in charge. He was with James Wan with the Conjuring universe, Conjuring 1, 2, 3, The Nun, Annabelle Creation, all those. And then he did Aquaman with James Wan, but then after that he got Shazam. Then he was then he went back with the Conjuring and universe. Then he went to Suicide Squad, and then Shazam again. Now he's doing Blue Beetle, and so on and so forth. So it looks like that was really the catalyst, was with James Wan, and the Warner Brothers must have loved what he was doing with the Conjuring universe and with Aquaman, so they brought him on to do other things to help, to kind of keep that vision of what he had for with Aquaman, to help continue that on, because Aquaman was very successful. So
they have said that James Gunn is going to be more the creative side of this, and Peter Safran's going to be more of a financial guy. I still don't. I keep thinking of it's weird that they have two guys, and I keep thinking of the line from The Office where Oscar is kind of lamenting that both Michael and Jim are in charge. And he goes, of course, we've always had two presidents, two kings. Where would Catholicism be without the popes? It's just, I find it odd. And because there just kind of have to be one guy where the buck stops at. And I don't know what's going to happen if they have disagreement. But then again, pairs of people direct movies all the time, pairs of brothers and such. So I don't know, but it should be interesting. And then this can bleed into the other piece of news, which last week we reported that Henry Cavill was returning as Superman, and now he has left The Witcher. He's leaving. Liam Hemsworth is replacing him.
That was going to be the news I was going to bring up. But continue.
But so that leads me to believe. Well, one of my friends on Twitter said something today like, it's not because of Superman, it's because he's had a disagreement with the showrunner. So I have no idea what's going on there, but everyone's thinking that it's just because he's going to immediately go do a Superman movie now. So I don't know if they're going to try and just do better with the universe, or if they might even try and reboot it. There's been rumors that the Flash movie which is based on Flashpoint, is going to be a sort of reboot, is going to be they're going to go the Star Trek route and sort of reboot the universe from within via time travel. Because and now we'll never see Batgirl. So I don't know if we're ever going to get an answer to this, but there was questions like, how is because J.K. Simmons was playing her dad in the movie, which is of course in line with the DCEU up to this point. But then Michael Keaton was in the movie, and they're like, how are these two characters from two different universes in this Batgirl movie? And I don't know if we'll get an answer to that, or if that answer would shed any light on their plans of maybe rebooting the universe or something. There's people have been speculating that they're going to reboot it so that Robert Pattinson is the Batman of the DCEU instead of Ben Affleck, and he'll share the screen with Henry Cavill. So who knows?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go in order here to give my thoughts on everything. You could have broken those up there, bro, but it's okay. We'll roll with it. It's all good. So going back to James Gunn as more the creative head of this new DC Studios. Mm-hmm. I am excited, but there's a caveat to that as well. James Gunn, there's no denying James Gunn is a terrific filmmaker. I mean, fantastic. But within his own niche of style. There are certain characters in the DC universe that style will not work. So I'm hoping that he won't bleed his style and influence his directors to
having funny dialogue and funny joshing around with all those characters. He's not going to do that with Batman.
But not just that, but it's also the aesthetic look. There's certain things that he does that are very.
He's also a horror filmmaker. He has a history in horror. He made the Belko Experiment.
Yeah.
He's also famous for being a script doctor as well, who goes in to fix scripts for people, and has written a lot of movies as well outside of directing. And to be clear, he's an executive producer.
Yeah.
And he's overseeing things. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be visually how he does things.
And that's what I hope.
If he's going to be a Kevin Feige type person, he needs to rely on the people that he's hiring to be the direction of these things. He's
exactly. But let's say,
but it won't be necessarily visually the way he does things.
Well, I mean, what if he goes what if he has a new vision for this DC moving forward, that he wants it to be like Suicide Squad, that he's like Peacemaker, like that style, that aesthetic look.
I think you have to give people credit for being able to do different things, because when David F. Sandberg was announced as the director of Shazam, it was like, oh, this horror movie guy is going to do Shazam. Is he going to make it like a horror? Is he going to make it dark and horror? And he did the exact opposite. He made it so lighthearted.
I think the better example is Peter Jackson, who went from schlocky horror to Lord of the Rings, which was very stylistically different. He got to creep in a little bit of his horror style, but it's a huge difference. I mean, Sam Raimi's
Russo brothers,
his stuff was still very schlocky.
Russo brothers did Community before that.
Russo brothers going from Community to Captain America Civil War.
And that, I mean, again, guys, I'm speculating. I'm hoping that's not the case. That's what I'm saying. I don't want it to be that way. I'm just speculating. I'm hoping that it doesn't happen, because, I mean, even though Kevin Feige gives creative freedom to his directors, they still have to follow certain things to keep things in continuity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
sure.
But
we're talking pre-Endgame. Now it's kind of a free for all.
We'll get to that actually.
So, but that's what I'm getting at. I mean, you got to kind of keep a certain amount of continuity and tonal continuity, even though you can make certain things lighthearted and certain things more dark toned. But it worked so well for Peacemaker and for Suicide Squad. I mean, especially Peacemaker.
But I mean, those were stylistically
more James Gunn.
To be not just James Gunn, but Peacemaker came out of Suicide Squad, and it's supposed to be a similar sort of aesthetic and sense of humor and character and personality. And
we also got to think moving forward, not with just James Gunn and Peter, I forgot his last name already, Safran. Dwayne Johnson's going to have a big hand in the DC moving forward too.
Yes, because he was making comments that me and Danny Garcia, because he has these three guys he produces a lot of his films with that were the producers on Black Adams, which is Danny Garcia, Hiram Garcia, and Beau Flynn. And he said something like, Danny Garcia and I really fought to have Henry Cavill in this movie because we could not imagine building the DCU without him. And I'm like, wait a minute, Dwayne, building the DCU, that made me think Dwayne Johnson is going to be one of the guys, because Marvel Studios has Kevin Feige, but they also have Victoria Alonso, Louis Despacito, Steven Broussard, Nate Moore, all these other guys whose names, if you're really paying attention, are also in the credits of every movie. Mm-hmm. Now I'm sort of thinking Dwayne Johnson's going to be the Victoria Alonso, the James Gunn's Kevin Feige.
I was thinking he'd be more like Robert Downey Jr., where Robert Downey Jr. in the early ones had a little more influence over the story and writing, because so much of it hinged on his Tony Stark being the sort of centerpiece of not just his films, but like
it's
they
star
intentionally
power.
put him into Incredible Hulk because they were trying to connect these things, and the connection to everything started with Tony Stark. That's now gone away, and we're moving in a different direction. But I feel like if The Rock, if Dwayne Johnson is going to be influential on these things, it's probably going to be in a more Robert Downey Jr. sort of way than any of the like named producers that we're familiar with in the MCU.
So it's very interesting. But James, do you have any thoughts before we move on to the other news that Ryan brought in with the because I have a lot of thoughts on that one too.
Apparently Josh watches The Witcher.
I've watched both seasons. Sorry, not all three. The third one's coming out, but both seasons I've watched them twice now.
Yeah, I'm not a huge James Gunn fan. I liked the second Suicide Squad and I liked Peacemaker. His other films didn't do much for me. Like Slither had some fun.
Well, Guardians.
Moments.
You didn't like Guardians?
No, did not like
Guardians.
Oh, really? Nope. Guardians was fun, but like it got kind of overblown, like in terms of like the fan response. Like to me, it wasn't nearly as good as everyone made it out to be.
Right.
And they became a little too important to events in the third phase, in my opinion.
I just watched it with a friend. I'm showing her all the movies, and she's like, "It's so good! It was so good."
That said, the Christmas special, the trailer dropped this week. That looks fucking great.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do like a trailer discussion. I watched it without doing a reaction, but we have to do like a trailer.
I mean, there's not much really to say. It just like it looks like it's gonna be fun.
Groot's an adult now. He's like a 20s, 30s.
Is he though? Is he though?
Come on, he's a big motherfucker right now.
I have a theory about that, and I'm gonna. I don't think it's what you think it is. But anyway, I'm indifferent to James Gunn running these things. Like I'm glad they're going to have someone actually spearheading this moving forward, and it's actually going to have some specific direction rather than this sort of meandering mess that it's been so far.
Right.
That said, we discussed last week the return of Henry Cavill, and I lamented that I haven't liked the direction they've taken the character so far because it doesn't mesh with the interpretation of the character I love. And this kind of has me concerned about, like, to me, this was an opportunity to do something new because Zack Snyder wasn't involved. The old people weren't involved. And it might give Henry Cavill something different to work with the character. Because I've been not a fan of his.
Well, you also got to think now, spoiler warning here. I'm gonna put my hand up if anybody hasn't seen the end credit scene of Black Adam. So pause, and I'm gonna put my hand down when we're done.
Everyone knows. We've already talked about it to death.
Yeah, but the look of Henry Cavill as Superman in the pro game. I mean, oh come on, that was the suit was fully saturated, looked gorgeous, and he had I figured with Ryan when Ryan saw it, he had he had the little curly there from like the. Yeah,
I'm still upset about the S. I still can't get over the S.
We did that rant for a half hour.
But he did he has like the little curly Christopher Reeves
and they
in
played
the hair.
And they played the John Williams theme as well.
Yep. So I figured I lost my
Snyder.
Yep, I lost my shit. So, and he just looked so good in that suit. So,
see, I don't like the way he looks. He's too big, in my opinion.
Oh, he's too.
I know people like the big Superman look. I don't like the big Superman look. It's never appealed to me.
Oh, for me, I love it.
But, all right,
that's why
I'm gonna put my hand down. I'm gonna put my hand down. So, okay, now we're back from anybody who silenced it, so they didn't get spoiled for them. But yeah,
I didn't finish my point.
Oh.
I was looking when they mentioned that Henry Cavill was going to be coming back as Superman. I was iffy on it. I lamented it to Ryan last week, but I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt because as people were leaving, and this now presents a new opportunity to do something new and different, and maybe go back to the roots of the character and honor sort of the versions of the character that I love. The sort of like Chris Reeve influence, the like even going to like Smallville, and like I'm one of the few people who actually love Superman Returns. I know it wasn't everyone's favorite, but I love that take on the character. And I would prefer that 1000% over anything the Man of Steel has done, anything that's come after the Man of Steel. So I was hoping that this might be an opportunity to go back to that, but with James Gunn, his style isn't, again, like Superman to me is a symbol of hope, a symbol of peace, a symbol of opportunity. And the sort of like dark nihilism of both Zack Snyder and James Gunn to me doesn't work with that. Now, it might be great for Batman and some of the other characters, but to me, Superman being the symbol of hope. Bringing James Gunn into me doesn't give me hope that that's what they're going to do with the character.
But
I could be wrong, and I'll be happy to
interpret James Gunn's. I've never thought of him as being nihilistic at all. He made Star-Lord, and he made fun, like vibrant characters in Guardians of the Galaxy. Whatever you think of the film, it's definitely not full of dark nihilistic characters. It's full of joyful, stuff.
What character in that movie is joyful?
Everyone's joyful in that movie. Like some of them
are. No, everyone's bitter and pissed off, and they hate everything.
That's Rocket for sure.
That's all of them. That was the whole shtick in the first one, was that they can't stand each other, but they're forced together.
And yet it's a light-hearted comedy.
It's not lighthearted.
It is.
Okay. It's a comedy, but it's not lighthearted.
But well, at any rate, I don't know.
Mantis, I'll give you, is lighthearted, but she's supposed to be a grown child.
We can talk about this till Judgment Day, but they're right now. So right now, before he was ever hired, before James Gunn was ever hired, we have 4 movies still to come that have been produced. They actually have more films coming out next year than Marvel does. So next year is Shazam: Fury of the Gods, The Flash, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom.
Well, what was that for, James? Which one was that for? Flash. Okay, yeah. I was like, I'm excited for Blue Beetle. Like, I'm all in on Blue Beetle. I'm excited
for Blue Beetle, but I still would have preferred to be Ted Kord. And I really, in my heart of hearts, want a Ted Kord, Booster Gold,
maybe
buddy comedy movie.
But
who was that in? Ted who?
Ted Kord was the original Blue Beetle.
Not the original. Well, the original Blue Beetle was Dan Garrett, then Ted Kord. This is actually number 3. The Blue Beetle 3 is Jaime Reyes.
Ted Kord's the one that everyone knew, and then
but
Jamie is the
no. So
replacement.
I'm excited to hear once those 4 films are out. I don't think it'll take all of next year for them to announce this, but once those 4 films are out, I'm excited to hear what the first project of DC Studios is. None of those are actually produced. They might have DC Studios on them on the front of their their thing, the front opening credits. But they were not actually produced by DC Studios. So I'd be excited to hear what the very first project that James Gunn and Peter Safran announced as coming from DC Studios is. Well,
I have a prediction.
What is that?
And it's what everyone wants. It's Shazam and Superman versus Black Adam.
Yeah, that's definitely they've been talking about that, which I thought was really. I don't even know if they're planning on Shazam fighting. Excuse me, Captain Marvel fighting Black Adam, because all The Rock has talked about is how much he wants to see Black Adam go up against Superman. I'm like, that's weird. That's weird. That's like making That's like making a Lex Luthor movie and being like, I just can't wait to see
Lex fight Luthor. That man.
I can't wait to have Lex Luthor fight Shazam, Captain Marvel, whatever.
In terms of characters, Batman fighting Lex Luthor makes more sense as like character versus character than Lex Luthor fighting Superman. I know Superman has the tradition, but like in terms of matchup, and I feel like Black Adam and the Superman that we've gotten versus the Shazam we've gotten, Black Adam kind of works better with the Shazam with the Superman we've gotten.
Well, there's also a terrific animation film of it's Superman and Shazam versus Black Adam.
The short film,
so awesome. Yeah, it's so awesome, and I think people are just like hoping to bring that to live action with all these characters. But,
all right, so
next little bit of it, next bit, Ryan got his thoughts. So when it comes to The Witcher, with Henry Cavill, I'm pretty sure Henry Cavill's leaving because he's going to be busy with Superman. I'm almost sure of that. I don't believe the other reports that he had a disagreement with the creators. I mean, he was the first 2 seasons, he reported how much fun he had on it, how much a privilege of it, because he's such a huge fan of this franchise, and he embodies Geralt so much. I mean, I played the games and I read some. I've read not all the games. I played a couple of the games and I've read a lot of the lore on it, and he looks so good as him. It's such a strong presence as this character, and for him to be replaced by, no offense to Liam Neeson, this dude better like hang on like 20 pounds of muscle.
Not Liam Neeson.
Sorry, not Liam Neeson.
I'm sorry. That'd be the greatest. I'd start watching the show.
I think I'd watch with Liam Neeson too.
But Liam Hemsworth, he better stack on like 20 pounds of muscle if he's going to take on this role. Because he's muscular, but he's not his brother, huh?
If his brother can, he's got the genetics, right?
Yeah, he's
And
literally
maybe-
like Chris Hemsworth has this show coming out all about how much of a perfect body he has. Like all about he has a docu series coming out. So like all he has to do is call up his brother and be like, I need you to train me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So I mean, and the other thing too, there's a subtlety also to Henry Cavill. I think Henry Cavill is a very underappreciated.
By the way, sorry. Chris Hemsworth was not that big before Thor.
No.
Like Chris Hemsworth, go back and watch Star Trek with him in it.
Yeah, he was small.
he was
He was
small.
definitely
And then
small.
even him in Ghostbusters, him in Men in Black, like
Yeah, very
he
small.
slims down between movies.
Oh yeah. But there's also, I think Henry Cavill is very much an underrated actor. Like a lot of people, I give him a lot of credit. I like a lot of subtlety he can bring to some roles. And there's when you watch him in The Witcher, there's a subtlety he brings to it. And it works so well for the tone of the character. I'm just worried that Liam Hemsworth is not going to be able to bring that. So I'm extremely apprehensive in this news. But I mean, they always say this, of course, to the public and the media. But Henry Cavill puts a lot of faith into Liam Hemsworth that he's going to do a great job. I mean, of course, they always say that, so I don't know for sure. All we got to do is wait and see. But I'm just extremely apprehensive with this news, and I'm just saddened that we're only getting one last season 3, with Henry Cavill as The Witcher and as Geralt, and I'm just really sad about that. But James, did you have any thoughts on this matter? I mean, have you seen the shows on Netflix?
I don't care.
Okay.
I don't
neither one
like
of us have
I
watched
don't
the
like
show.
Henry Cavill. I don't care for The Witcher.
The show is
Um,
great. Oh, I
yeah,
love that show.
I don't understand the absolute fascination with all of this medieval like dark medieval lore and whatnot. Like it's never appealed
It's
to me.
high
and it's like-
fantasy. It's
yeah,
Tolkien.
and that's never appealed to me. Like Lord of the Rings is the closest thing I've ever come to actually liking fantasy or like medieval literature and fiction and whatnot. And it's like I don't want to watch people trudging around in the mud for 20 episodes and like none of it appeals to me. So it's like I don't care, and people keep like trying to force me to watch the show. And it's like I don't want to watch the show. Stop trying to make me watch the goddamn show. I watched Game of Thrones and that ended in disaster. I'm not watching another one.
House of Dragon is really good so far.
I don't give a shit.
Wow, sad. I like it so far.
Don't give a shit.
All right, folks. Well, I think that was the
Nope.
news. Oh
Nope.
no, we have one
We have
more.
more.
Okay,
We have more.
Sorry.
Black Panther.
Oh, that's right.
Black Panther came out this week, and Kevin Feige was very talkative.
What are you talking
Um,
about? Black Panther came out this week.
It premiered.
It premiered.
Premiere. Okay.
The
Okay. Yeah.
premiere
Yep,
was
it
this week,
premiered.
and Kevin Feige was on the red carpet and was asked quite a few questions. Some of the things that were actually interesting was he was specifically asked about Phase 4, and he went on a little bit about it. But basically, I'm just going to summarize what he said. He said that Phase 4 was sort of it's meant to be sort of a transition period, where they're dealing partly with the fallout of everything that happened after Thanos
Endgame.
and like all of the stuff that's sort of not just Endgame, but like the entire Thanos saga, because there's the snap and then there's the return and like the consequences of all that stuff. And we saw that throughout, several different films, how, different characters and different aspects of the universe were sort of affected by that. From, Spider-Man to, in WandaVision, we saw like people just coming back out of nowhere and like the effects of that. Obviously, and like much of the purpose of Phase 4, and I've been saying this from the beginning, was about introducing new characters, introducing new aspects of the universe, expanding the universe, and laying the groundwork for what's to come. And like this has been it's been intentionally sort of like, I don't want to say disjointed, but he's confirmed a lot of like what we've been saying about Phase 4 being intentionally sort of like a roadmap for the stuff that's coming. And that's why the announcements for phases 5 and 6 were so exciting, but they needed to build to get there, just like they did in Phase 1. It wasn't just about introducing these characters, it was about building this world and introducing various aspects that will become more important outside of just the individual characters.
So you mean rebuilding the world?
No, expanding the world, building the
Okay.
roadmap of stuff that they're going to start developing that is going to be important for what we now know is going to be the multiverse saga. They
Mhm.
had, if you think about it like a giant chessboard, they had to put new pieces into place. They'd already set up some of the story and whatnot, but there was new stuff that they had to bring in order to build this stuff out. So this has been about building that out. So while it hasn't been as connected as people wanted, it's been a very intentional sort of slow drip of, here's this new piece, here's that new piece, here's how these things connect. And even like, it hasn't been entirely just that. They have been establishing some of the story with the multiverse already. We've had like 3 films, well, 2 films in a TV series developing the multiverse. They've already introduced the villain, and as we discussed last week with the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer, we got to see even more of the villain. And Ryan pointed out my fangirling over
Jonathan Majors.
Yeah, who?
I said Jonathan Majors is to you what Florence Pugh is to Josh.
Yeah,
and I almost took offense to that, but you're right. After seeing him in that in the Creed trailer, I'm like, oof.
Dude,
that's made me question things about myself.
Creed 3 trailer, he is jacked.
Yeah.
So if he can get, so Liam Hemsworth just needs to call his brother and Jonathan Majors, and see how he can get that big.
He's got the genetics. So the other thing that he was talking about that he was asked about was the X-Men, which is something that I've been harping on for forever. Is when are the X-Men going to come in? He says it's sooner than we think. Of course, we're starting with Deadpool and Wolverine. And that bit of news has already come out, and that's exciting. But like he promised that it's it's coming, it's sooner than we think, and it's going to be. He didn't specify anything beyond Deadpool and Wolverine, but I'm excited that they're at least starting to acknowledge this.
Yeah, people have been begging
we're getting
for the
closer.
X-Men.
Yeah, I like X-Men and Spider-Man were the 2 that I've wanted for a long time to be included in the MCU. We've had Spider-Man. They've told that story. I'm excited for where they're going to go now, but X-Men was the other one that I really, really wanted.
Ryan's been wanting Fantastic Four forever now.
Well, I want a very specific version of Fantastic Four, and I don't have faith that they're going to do exactly what Ryan Murphy in Des Moines, Iowa wants them to do. But I've heard a couple of rumors that might, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
The rumors I've heard are interesting because I think Ryan's whole thing was that they come from the past. They come from the 60s, and they were very much a period sort of group of heroes that come forward. And I think they're kind of come from the future.
Oh gosh.
I think they're going to come. I think they're going to come in response to Kang, because Kang is of course a descendant of Reed Richards.
How far in the future? Because I mean, Kang, the original Kang was originally from the
30th century or something like that.
30th
Maybe even
century,
like something like 300th century or something. But
30th century, yeah.
But I have a feeling that Reed is probably the one who invented the time travel that Kang has been using.
Oh, Tony Stark invented time travel.
No, I would be better if they used Tony Stark's as the platform.
Tony Stark invented time travel, but in a very limited sort of like. I think that the technology specifically that Kang is going to use is going to come from his great grand, however many greats are, our grandfather Reed Richards, and that it's the familial connection that's going to be. Anyway, I'm getting into the weeds of something that isn't even going to happen for like 2 or 3 years. We don't know anything about it. I'm excited. Some of the things that Kevin Feige said were exciting. He also brought up, someone mentioned James Gunn and him kind of leaving Marvel for DC to be exclusive to DC, and Kevin Feige was very diplomatic about it and said he's very excited about, he's going to be the first in line for James Gunn's future DC projects. And it's like, why would he hold a grudge about this? Like it's a job.
He also said he's got a lot of work to do between now and May. So that's the quote I remember him saying. So he said he's still got a lot of work to do for us between now and May. But
because they still need to finish Guardians 3 and. But anyway, I thought some of the things he said around the red carpet were interesting and gave some context to some things that we've been wondering about and some things that fans have been lamenting. And like, it's been sort of a slow drip of information from Marvel. So whenever you get something from the horse's mouth, it's a little more interesting.
And
then
we lose Josh?
We've lost his camera. I don't know if we've lost his audio too.
Well, I'll just keep going then, I guess. We'll get him back.
Well, you didn't lose me. You didn't lose me.
Okay. The only other thing I saw was Daniel Bray, Brule, or however you pronounce his name, sort of commenting on the noticeable absence of Zemo in the lineup for Thunderbolts. And he was, again, vague, but like his exact quote was, even if I could explain my absence, I couldn't, The only thing I can say everybody knows is I'm not dead, which I don't know. I was amused by that. So I wish that we'd have a little more information about that. Him being so cagey makes me think that there still might be a possibility, but he can't say it, kind of thing. But I don't know. So
All right. Anything else?
um
There we go. There's a
well,
very interesting angle there, Josh.
yeah.
Well, I'm trying to get my. There we go.
Hey,
My
wow.
camera had a little. My camera had a little glitch there. I had to get it fixed, guys. I apologize. I'm very intrigued by a lot of things that Kevin Feige said. Especially it's just I think he did. I don't know if he did that intentionally or not. But it was great to get those little snippets.
Oh, Vision Quest is it hasn't been officially announced. Like me, everyone's like, this is pretty much official. I'm like, no, not until it comes from Marvel. And I was like, Harrison Ford has been cast as Thunderbolt Ross in Captain America. I'm like, no. I mean, yeah, he definitely has, but it's not official. Like, we can't say it's official until Feige says
it's
so.
The same.
So,
it's the same with Sacha Baron Cohen being
as
confirmed as Mephisto.
Yeah. No, but that's not even on the Harrison Ford level. That's very much a rumor. But something that's more on the Harrison Ford level that's been essentially confirmed by sources, all but confirmed, is that there is now a new series coming out from the same showrunner as WandaVision called Vision Quest. Which will be Vision trying to regain his memories and humanity. I guess it's going to be the White Vision, probably trying to get back to being just Vision. I don't know.
Well, there was other casting news this week too about Reed Richards, and that's the name that I'm hearing now is William Jackson Harper, who, if you don't know who he is, he played Chidi on The Good Place, and he's an outstanding actor. And given the proximity of obviously the ethnicity of Jonathan Majors, it would make sense if Reed Richards was also Black. And a lot of people are kind of iffy on whether or not he's going to actually be cast. It's still just a rumor at this point, but I'm seeing it in a lot of places. So to me, this has been the most concrete casting we've had of this character so far. And again, outstanding actor, like just amazing actor, who I think is going to do a bang up job as Reed Richards. But
if he's in fact Reed Richards, so
yeah, we'll see.
I mean, we don't know.
There's been rumors. I mean, we don't know yet, but there's been rumors that there's hints to the Fantastic Four in Wakanda Forever. There's been hints of that to the after credit scenes.
Well, this one specifically is about Ant-Man and the Wasp. He will appear in that. Again, that would be rumors. We don't know anything.
And if he is, there's a possibility that he will appear, because I've heard rumors that Invisible Woman is going to appear in the movie. Those were months ago. And if they appear in this movie, it might be because they're stuck in the quantum realm from the 60s, or I don't know.
Or from the future.
Oh, from the future.
We will see. But yeah, that's really, I'm excited to see what, hopefully there's things keeps constantly trickling out from Marvel, and we will cross our fingers and we'll bring it to you here on a weekly basis, guys. But that'll do us for today. Thank you very much for watching. More importantly, what do you think of all this news that we have brought to you here tonight? Leave your comments section below. Let us know if you're excited for Liam Hemsworth, not Neeson, not returning, but becoming Geralt in The Witcher. What do you think of Kevin Feige's new thoughts on the future of Marvel? And also, what do you think about other news we had in the very beginning of the show? Leave your comments and share your thoughts. Also, if you like what you watched, hit that like button. It's probably right about there or over here, one of these spots. And subscribe to the channel so you can receive more of our various content here in the future. Again, I'm Josh Williams.
I'm Ryan Murphy.
And I'm James Sheridan.
Thank you for keeping it real.
With ReelTime.
Good night.
Happy Halloween.